All right. Well, welcome, friends. We have a treat for you today. Liz Marie Galvan, the one and the only. She is an author. She just released her third best-selling book. She had started with another book, children's book. She is an entrepreneur, a shop owner, coming up. I mean, I could go on forever, but coming up on how many followers do you have now? Like, I don't know. You're coming up on close to 1 million. Yeah. So Liz, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. And you know what? Most importantly, all that stuff, but most importantly, Liz is a wife, a mama, and she is a woman of strong faith. So we come on here and at the Grace Filled Grit podcast, talk about faith, family, and the farm. And it is an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. This is an honor to be here talking about all of my favorite things. So faith, family, and farm. So yeah. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, good. Well, we're excited to have you. So let's get right in and start with your farm. I'm sure that my audience here, we have a lot of hardcore homesteaders and decor ladies on here. Tell us a little bit about your farm.
Yeah, so we live on a little 8-acre farm here in West Michigan. We're currently in sub-zero temperatures, but we were just talking before we started recording about how the sun is actually out today.
Finally.
So it's wonderful, but all of my cold weather farm friends understand living on a farm in the winter. It is not for the weak-hearted. I'm very thankful for a husband who is willing to do a lot of farm chores when I am too cold. But we live on a 8-acre farm, like I said, and we have about 20 sheep. We have Icelandic sheep, so this is like their prime weather here. Mm-hmm. And we have 2 alpacas now that we recently adopted from another farm. And we have a lot of barn cats, a few dogs, and one crazy toddler running around. We also have bees. I sometimes forget about the bees because they kind of farm themselves, but we also do have bees here on the farm too.
Yeah. Aren't bees amazing? I mean, into summer, you just get a bunch of honey and you don't have to feed them every day. You don't have to scoop their manure. It's as good as it gets.
It's been a great life lesson for us. It's been very hard lessons, losing hives in the winter and trial and error. It's my husband, Jose, actually joined a local bee club. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting to see all the different takes and the different ways you can raise bees. And so a lot of life lessons there, but the honey and the honeycomb has been great. And getting. With bees prior to having bees here on the farm, I was deathly afraid, still scared of the mean ones, but not the honeybees. And so that's been a cool lesson to learn too.
It is. And it's just such a neat to watch them, when out around your flowers and all the things they're doing, and just knowing the background of how important they are in the world. It's extra special. And then of course, after you get that beautiful honey, you're everyone's favorite person on the planet. They can't wait to get it.
Yes, exactly. And it's truly like liquid gold. And so learning the health benefits too has been wonderful. We're not harvesting a ton to sell or to give away a lot. We do give some away, but even just for our family and our health and learning about that side of it too has been really interesting.
Yeah. And I agree with what you said about, we've lost a couple of hives and, they would make it like all the way. We only have 5 here, and they would make it all the way to the end of winter, end of February, like they made it through the hard part. And then all of a sudden it would be beetles or weather or
something. Yeah.
It's very frustrating, but we keep coming back for more.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So very thankful. We actually, a fun story is we said after we lost all the hives over one of the winters, we said next year we're going to take a break. We're just going to leave the hives empty and, go from there. And God had other plans. The hives actually caught wild swarms, which was really cool. And those were the bees that actually lasted through the next winter. I think they were very hardy. We had been purchasing a queen from a local farm the other years and kind of, making our own swarms, our own hives, but catching the swarm, they seem to be very hardy. So God said, no, we're not going to leave these empty. And that was a really neat thing to see here on the farm.
Yeah. Oh, that's as
Yeah.
good as it gets.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. Good for you. So do you have a favorite animal on the farm?
Great question. I wouldn't say favorite, but I do have one that I am attached to more than all of the others. And if you do follow us, I also want to say, if you follow us, you're definitely witnessing a whole trial and error farmer. I am not a professional homesteader, but someone who's very
None of us are. None of
yeah,
us are.
I wanted to say to anyone that, starts following us now, we're definitely trial and error people and learning as we go, which I am very thankful for communities that allow that and don't gatekeep information. And that's definitely not us too. So we kind of show the highs and the lows of that and learning as we go. But growing our sheep here on the farm was kind of interesting. I had a friend who had Icelandic sheep, and one of the babies was rejected by her mother. And she said, I cannot bottle feed this lamb. I don't have time. And at the time, I didn't have a child and I had no other animals besides dogs. And so I said, I can do it. And so I drove over to her farm and grabbed this tiny little lamb and named her Grace.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so that is our Grace on our farm. So if you do follow us, you often hear me go out to the fields and call her name. And people from around the world have fallen in love with her because they have watched her grow from that tiny little lamb who we thought might not make it, bottle feeding and through the journey. And that's actually what our kids book is about too, is Grace coming to the farm. So I wouldn't say favorite, but I would say that we are attached.
Yeah. They have an extra special place in your heart when we have one little goat that we bottle fed. And I'm like, I love them all, but we snuggled with him on the couch watching Netflix. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So.
No, and our Grace still comes in the house to visit. Our floors are all like painted pine. So everyone's always worried about it, but we can basically hose our floors off. But she does come in for house visits still. And she's very special. And that's kind of how our whole herd started. And then we got a couple more sheep from another farm, and it's just been kind of going from there. But she was our first livestock animal here.
Yeah. And they have a special place in your heart when they're the first too.
They do. Yes, they do. And it's been beautiful to watch her become a mom and now a grandma. And so it's been cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So when I was following along, was it last year when you did, when you all put up the greenhouse?
Yes.
Last year. Yeah. So what do you plan on planting this year?
So that is a great question. We used to have a very large garden. I started out, it's kind of like when I'm eating and my eyes are bigger than my appetite.
Oh, yes.
I put a lot on my plate and I took a part of our pasture and made this very large garden. And it quickly got out of hand. Because again, I'm learning as I go, and I realized I need to go smaller. And in that time period, I also became a mother. So right outside of our kitchen door, we've now made a little garden and we have a tiny little greenhouse. And mainly the greenhouse, I don't have a heat source quite yet. Again, I'm trying to take more baby steps. I tend to go all in and overwhelm myself. And so I'm trying to slow down. And so our greenhouse is very pretty. And I do start my seeds in there and with lamps and things like that. But what we've been doing is we take a look at our diet and what we use the most. And our garden is now way smaller. And what we're doing now is we are growing the things that we eat the most. And that has been a great baby step for us. So anyone wanting to start a garden, it's like knowing what you're going to use the most. Last year, I will say, we really thought we were going to eat a 5-gallon bucket of tomatoes every day, I think, because I grew way too many. And I was even like feeding like 6 families from this garden and inviting people to come over. And it was like the never ending tomatoes. But but that's where we've started, and it's been a huge blessing. And so this year we're going to add canning and preserving and all of that. So taking those baby steps has been really helpful for us.
Yeah. And that is something that is so much wisdom, what you just said. And I hope our audience hears that. Because with the homesteader community, I'm a little bit like the same as you. I want this animal and I want all these plants and I want these flower gardens and your friends are doing all these wonderful things. And it's I've had to have a check of do not compare yourself. You're on your own journey. And if you're in busy seasons, it's okay to not do some of this stuff and scale way back, and just every year is a different year, and that's giving yourself grace in that time frame to just do what fits. And if you have, like last year we had a medical situation going on and we had to scale way back, and it was kind of refreshing. So it's nice to know. And then you come back and you pick and choose, what do I have time to cultivate and really do right? Why am I growing something that no one in my family likes to eat? That type of thing. So I appreciate you sharing, that wisdom. That is so smart. And wherever we're at on that homesteading scale, anywhere is better than nowhere. And we just, I think it's hard for new homesteaders coming into it. They just want to jump in with everything, and it can get overwhelming.
Yeah, it can. And I often look, so we had moved our garden, and I often look at the other one out in the pasture, and it's now kind of just sad looking. And I was looking at it as this huge failure. And now I kind of look at it as like a someday get back to it kind of thing. And I look at it more of like an exciting future thing. This year we were going to attempt to grow maybe some lavender in that garden and use parts of it. So looking at it more like less of a failure and more of a reminder to, stay in your own lane and kind of do what fits your lifestyle. Cause you're adding all of these animals. Does your family go on a lot of vacations?
Right.
You have to think of these things. And thankfully we have a lot of people in our life that stay at the farm while we're gone. But that has definitely held us back from growing. But as you're scrolling on social media, you're looking at all these other people doing these things and you can feel less than, but that's what fits their lifestyle. And I always think of that even with home decors. I often share home decor more than I do our farm life and the animals. But the same thing with home decor, we're looking into other people's homes and we're like, why doesn't my home look like that? But we have to remember they're sharing a highlight, they're sharing what works for them, and we're all in our own season of life. So
yes. And I've even had to, I've taken a couple of sabbaticals off of social media. If I notice myself going in too deep and trying to add too many things, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. And if this is still on my heart and still in the works, I'll do this. And, glorious couple of weeks off.
yes, it definitely, we're kind of in that season still. We're in a season of like not being on too much or showing a lot right now besides kind of our store and just like little bits of life. I'm still in a season of taking some time off, and it is wonderful. And it's a personal mental health check that I think everyone should do. And I often, as someone who shares online daily, I can recognize when I get some comments and messages, I can often recognize that that person is seeing through a lens of that they need a break from social media because they're not seeing it through a lens. And I shared this last week, and maybe it could be helpful too, is in my stories, like I just said, we're often just sharing highlights. As a busy mom, I don't have a lot of time a day to share on social media. So when I do get that time, I want to share things I love and things that are inspiring me, that are happy. So that's often me not sharing the laundry piles or messy rooms because I don't have time to share it all. But I reminded everyone, I'm like, it is still there, even when it's not being shown. And I hope that helps people, because even now I'll walk through my house after I get a message of saying, is like, do you have any messes, or do you ever have a mess? And I laugh, but then I'll walk through my house and I'll see the messes and I'll be like, I bet so-and-so online never has this mess. And I'll say that in my head and compare myself, even though people say it to me too. And I laugh. So we all do it. But I think taking a break and seeing social media as a place to gather inspiration, but not to compare is
right. And that is so wise. And I even was back and forth yesterday with someone in my DMs, and your farm is so beautiful and that's the life I want. And And I'm like, okay, you saw just a sweet clip of cute little chickens and the goats and all this. You didn't see the piles of manure and, me going out there in 1 degree weather and my car hurts, there's a lot of junk behind the scenes. And yeah, and it's hard trying to decide, what do I show in stories, more of stories, I'll show some of that, but it is a balancing act. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. It's so, so important to not play that comparison game and just do your life and, give yourself grace. Definitely.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. So I would love to hear about your faith journey if you're comfortable sharing that.
Yeah.
I know you're a woman of God, and I would just love to hear your faith story. I know
Yeah.
that's a big, wide open question.
Yeah, I can definitely condense it because it's something that I often share because, again, people see you online and they see bits of your faith and they think it's just been this easy, always been their journey. And for me, it definitely wasn't that. I did grow up going to a private Christian school my entire life. I went to church 3 times a week, but I did not have a relationship with God. I think because I was so privileged to know that he was there, and I was privileged to know him from such a young age that I took it for granted. And I knew a lot of facts about the Bible. I had a lot of verses memorized. I could tell you whose brother was who and whose dad was who. I could tell you all of that in the lineage, but it wasn't until I got married at 19, very early, and I moved states away from my family, and I was thrown out into the world, where I could make my own decisions. So I decided to not attend church and not pursue a relationship with God and just live my own life and kind of forget about anything spiritual or religious. And not that that was, terrible. I think I did need this time to find myself and to find my own religion and my own way to God, if that makes sense, and to experience the world. But when I was 23, my husband and I started to try to grow our family. And we thought, again, it would be so easy. You have your life mapped out. I was going to have a child by 25. And, I thought I had it all mapped out. And little did we know we would be on this decade-long journey where we would eventually get pregnant, but go on to lose 11 babies and not have any answers. And that was the darkest part of the storm, is to feel like such a failure, like my body had failed me. And then to also be blaming myself because of those years that I lived without him. And I made some decisions that were not decisions I would make today. And so I definitely blamed myself for losing those children. But it was in that storm that I found God, and I found my way back to him, and I was able to develop a relationship with him on my terms, and with my own view of the world now. And so I am thankful for that storm I was in. And it's very hard to say that you're thankful for miscarriages, but that is what brought me to know God and to be the person that I am today, and to have the faith that I have today. Because as we're looking at the world, even now, I don't know how I would make it through not knowing God. So that's kind of a short and condensed version of my faith journey, but I am very thankful for every step of it.
Yeah. And it is amazing how, when I heard you say, you're thankful for the hard times because it brought you closer to him. I mean, I had a very similar situation a year ago with a brain tumor, and totally everything's fine, and no cancer, no deficits, none of that. It's just a crazy story. But I wouldn't trade that for anything. As horrific as it was, looking at those scans of this giant peach-sized brain tumor, it just seems impossible. And it is wonderful now, to see God can take impossible situations, and other people, don't have this happy ending like I do. And you have, a beautiful child now, and he's just precious. But you take those moments and you just think, as horrible as that was, which, he had me on my knee, like, this is as bad as it gets. I wouldn't trade it for anything because it strengthened my faith. And now I'm turned into a crazy Jesus freak, and that's all I want to talk about. But it is neat to see how his grace can flip a situation that, Satan wanted to use that for evil, and somehow God still can flip the worst situation around to use for his good somehow. How he does that, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I know. And even in my marriage, I feel like our marriage is so strong, but I'm a firm believer that it was those hard situations. My husband was in the military,
Mhm.
and I do feel like deployments and miscarriages and loss of parents and things like that, that made us stronger.
Mhm.
That doesn't always happen. And I'm so aware of that, but it did strengthen our relationship, and it also gave me a relationship and strengthened it with God.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to say that you're thankful for all that, and
Right.
it's hard to say to a large audience too,
Mhm.
because it can definitely be taken the wrong way. But I guess it's my testimony, and
Right.
so it's, you know what I mean, and it's your testimony, and it is hard for me to find words about religion and my relationship with God, because I know that every relationship looks different.
Mhm.
And it's definitely hard to convey that every day. And so
Yes.
I always go from the standpoint, and I know everyone's different. And I was just having this conversation with a friend a couple weeks ago, but I hope that I can show through actions and living more my walk with God than
Mhm.
words, because I'm not always great with the words.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And everyone is on a different journey. And, there's so many times I look at, another family that's close to us, and their brain tumor story isn't going that well. And,
Yep.
and you're just like, God, why? They're better. They're down at the homeless shelter feeding, like, why do I get the happy ending?
Yep.
And, in other situations throughout our marriage, we haven't been the ones to get the happy ending. And so it's just, he's got a journey for each of us. And, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is so true that, he can turn a really rotten, tough situation into something beautiful.
Yeah.
So
And
how do you balance it all? You're so busy. Well, it appears you're busy. You're doing such amazing things. You have the shop, which I wish I was closer in town to you, because I would be able to go to it.
yeah.
You're an author. You're on social media. I know you're doing all kinds of things with corporations and all of that. How do you balance it all with motherhood? You have a beautiful little baby boy. How is he? 2, 3?
He just turned 3 on
Oh,
Sunday, and
oh,
I'm struggling with that. I feel like he's getting big so quickly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say we're sharing a highlight reel. So the appearance of being busy is true. The
Mhm.
appearance of balancing it all is not true. But what I have learned going through entering motherhood and now being in the busy stages of having a toddler, having a brick and mortar shop, having an online shop, blogging, things like that. I've definitely learned that I need to delegate more and ask for help. I am a very independent person, and so asking for help is very hard for me. But asking for help is healthy,
Mhm.
and it doesn't make you appear weak, as I once thought, or appear like you aren't capable, because you are capable, but you also have a breaking point. And
Right.
so if you want to do more, then you need to ask for more help. And so that's been a very interesting thing for me. And also learning to do a lot of the things I do with my family and including them in things has been really helpful. So, learning how to have a baby at the shop and things like that have just been really helpful for me. There's this thing called mom guilt.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sure everyone's heard of it. And I used to roll my eyes a lot before becoming a mom at terms like that, because I was struggling to become a mom. So when I heard things like that, it just kind of made me roll my eyes, but it's a real thing. And it's something that can definitely weigh on your mental health, which I've experienced. Even though we grew our family through adoption, I think a big topic is postpartum depression, but I do think there's this whole motherhood depression where you can let your mom guilt weigh on you. But I think for me, finding the balance was learning to be present where I'm at in the moment, asking for help, and setting boundaries, and setting time limits. And then also putting my mental health, my physical health, making it a priority. Over the past year, if you do follow me, I haven't talked about it much, but you've seen me lose a lot of pant sizes, and also talk more about my mental health. And that's been huge for me, because when I became a mom, I definitely put myself on the back burner, and I gained a lot of weight, and mentally and physically. And so putting myself as a priority as well has helped with the mom guilt, because I can be a better mom when I'm mentally and physically more capable.
Yes. Oh, such good words there.
That was
Definitely.
word. Sorry, that was total word vomit, but I'm very passionate about that.
No, that is so, so important. As you know, I'm a mama of four, and they're on the, they're adults now and amazing people, but it is tough. And you have to not give every piece of yourself away to those little ones. And you have to mentally take some time for yourself. And it's hard to do, because as women, we're givers. And we want to just do everything for them, and give them this perfect life and all of that, but we have to take care of ourselves. That is so, so important. And of course, I like to focus on the faith side of that, but physically, we need to, so many times I will just shut this laptop down, and I will just go sit with my goats, or go take a walk, or go on a trail hike, and put my worship music on, or a podcast or something, just something, just to, get away from the screens, get away from all the chaos. And especially young moms need that. So that is such good wisdom, especially from an entrepreneur. And I will say, I'll just give you a little bit of kudos here. As a business professor, you are one of the few influencers that I think are really amazing in the business world. I love how I see so many influencers. They have this huge following. They're doing awesome things. They're, posting a couple times a day, and they're in stories, or they're on TikTok, and they're doing all these random things. But they're not bringing people back to their website. And I love that you're doing that. You might make a post, but it's always, if you want more of this, go back to the website, and that is the real estate that you own. And it's, if Facebook goes away, if Instagram goes away, or they have a glitch that day, you still have, I'm assuming you have a great email list. I mean, you're doing the things that truly the corporate world is doing, but many influencers are not. So kudos to you. So do you have a business background, or where did you learn this stuff? Or is it just natural to you?
Well, I love that you said that, because in this world of instant gratification and social media, where people don't want to leave the social apps, they don't want to. And me included, probably. Like, we are so trained that I'm going to get that info quickly.
Right.
It's been really hard to not feel like a dinosaur having a website. And you do make some people mad when you want them to go to your website. But I will say a couple of things on that. I feel very thankful and blessed that I started this whole online journey back in 2009.
Wow.
So I started my blog while my husband was deployed, because I was doing all of these like random creative things. I've always been painting furniture since I was young. I've always been doing creative things. And my friend said, you should start a blog. I had never heard of the word blog before. I thought it was a dirty word. I was like, what are we doing here?
Right.
But anyways, I found this blogging world that day. I went home from her house. Again, my husband was deployed, and I found this entire world of creatives
Mhm.
online. This was before Instagram, before everything. And I started my blog. And so that has always been my passion.
Mhm.
Instagram and all of this, it's become part of that passion
Mhm.
of sharing online, but the blog is always the base of that. And to own my own space
Mhm.
I feel like I'm welcoming everyone into my bedroom,
Mhm.
and like from when I was a kid, and it's like, look at what I did, look what I
Mhm.
decorated, and kind of giving the tour. Now, I'm grown up, so welcome to my house. But I
Right.
just feel like I've always been that person that's um wanted to welcome people into my space. And Instagram doesn't feel like my space, or TikTok, because you're quickly scrolling through, you're not fully taking the tour or fully reading all of these words. So I love that you said that. And so I am trying very hard to keep my website alive. And so I
Mhm.
do talk about it daily. And I try to keep it going. And I encourage other people to get these things. I don't know if you remember, but in the past year, Instagram went down for an entire day. And there was
Right.
a lot of people that were like, after that, they were like, I started an email list, I started this.
Mhm.
So I think having that website, and you can grow different things off of it. You can have an online shop. You can do a lot more things with it, again, because it's your space, and it's an umbrella where you can
Mhm.
have a bunch of businesses in one area. You can have your book, and it's just your space and
Yeah.
what you want to do with it.
Just so smart, genius. You don't see a lot of it, and
Thanks
more
for that
people should
encouragement
follow.
today.
They
Thank
should
you.
follow that lead, because it really, you know, all social media is, are you popular or not? You're not going to make a lot of sales off of social media. You're not going
No.
to grow true long-term relationships with people. So it's so smart, that website, email list. You definitely have it going on there. So kudos to you.
You. I know, I will say I've been hacked before on Instagram, and that was a huge eye opener. And I've also seen a lot of people's posts get deleted for no reason. Like they say it was a violation, but it wasn't. It was
You
like
don't
a
know
picture of a
why. Yeah.
dresser. So knowing that that can happen is just really scary to me. So I
Right.
love having, I still would be devastated,
Right.
if I lost that, because I that's how I do communicate with a lot of people that enjoy the same things I do. I chat with people in DMs and in my posts. So I still love social media. I don't want to give the
Right.
wrong impression, but I do love owning my own space on the
Yes.
blog.
So smart. Very smart. Definitely. Well, tell us about your new adventure, your book. Okay. So seasons, cozy white cottage, and it might be, I don't know if it's flipped on here. I don't know if you can see that. But my daughter is in college, and she comes home and works at Target on the weekends. And so she bought me this for Christmas.
Oh,
Um,
so sweet.
such a good gift for anyone of any season. So tell us about your new book. And this is your third, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
there's Cozy White Cottage, which was our first book, and this one is Cozy White Cottage Season. So Cozy White Cottage, the first book, was 100 super simple tips on how to make your home cozy. Anyone can do it, live in any home.
Mhm.
It's a great first step. And then Cozy White Cottage Seasons elaborates off of that, and it takes you through each season with, again, 100 super simple, approachable tips that anyone can do, whether you live in a city apartment or you live on a farm. So we definitely started Cozy White Cottage Seasons. We started writing it at the beginning of 2020, which we all know
Wow.
what
Yeah.
happened there. And so I did start out wanting to do more decorating, more seasonal decorating. But when everything happened, I said, what is the point of writing this book? And I had to have a few people in my life shake me and say, now more than ever, people want a cozy home. So
Right.
go off of that. So we scaled back, and it's less about decorating. There are a lot of decorating tips in there, and a lot of Christmas and
Mhm.
Valentine's Day things, but it's more about cleaning schedules, but also it's about bucket lists,
Mhm.
things to do for yourself and your family each season. Each season has a bucket list, because creating cozy memories is everything.
Mhm.
And we were very much reminded of that. And it kind of, I think, helps you define your own version of cozy in each season. And I love that I can talk about how spring can be cozy, summer can be cozy.
Right.
It's not just winter with a cup of hot cocoa and a throw blanket, but it's so much more than that.
Right.
And so that's what Cozy White Cottage Seasons does.
Yeah. And you have a couple recipes in there.
Yeah,
as
recipes.
well.
We definitely went with again, things you can use off of your farm. Lavender. That's why I inspired my want to grow lavender this year. We did a lavender latte in the book, but scaled back and did more simple things that everyone can do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And your collections, you are one of the few people on Instagram that have the most amazing vintage collections. I love it. And I know you shared a couple of them in there. Do you have a favorite collection in your house, or does it change?
It changes. That is a great question, but I am very passionate about antiques. Our store, our brick and mortar, the Found Cottage, we sell old and new there. We have a lot of antiques, but I have a lot of favorite collections. I'm actually sitting in front of a bunch of them right now. That is a really hard one. I would say my vintage glass cloches are kind of a classic one, just because I do find those a lot at flea markets, and I can style them. It's just a glass cloche, and we actually talk about that in book one, different things to style underneath. But I've definitely been bringing more of them out lately. I would say, yeah, let's go with the glass cloches for now.
Those are
but
great. And they'll be great too to use in the greenhouse. If you want to put a plant underneath it too, that's awesome.
Yes. And I use them in every single season, and again, switch things out with each one. But I do like collecting antiques, and I often share them on my Instagram. And I have people that are always asking about, how do you do this? But I would say, if it's something that you're interested in, I would definitely consider getting a booth at a store, or opening up a shop, even whether it's online or brick and mortar, because it can quickly get to be out of control.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You need to rotate that.
You do. Yes, you do.
Rotate the inventory.
Yes.
Yeah. I had an antique booth for a little while. I'm like, I didn't make any money because I just kept buying everything around me.
I know it can be out of control too. And so we love having the shop, and it is fun to see pieces that were in our house and on our farm now in someone else's house. And sometimes I miss the pieces, but it is really cool. And that's what I love about antiques, is the sustainability. It's not that fast fashion or fast home decor. It's these pieces that are heirloom quality that can be passed along, which is really cool.
Yes. Yeah. Passing them on. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
So before, I know I don't want to keep you any longer than we chatted about, but before I let you go, I would love, and I know we're chatting about your newest book, but with Easter coming up, I would love for you to tell a little bit about your children's book, in case to me, the seasons book would be perfect as a Mother's Day gift, or, anybody's birthday coming up or whatever. But your children's book would also be fabulous in an Easter basket. So tell us really quick a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our kids' book, We Belong Together, is a great book for Easter. It tells a story about Grace coming to the farm, and it's really kind of a funny story. It's actually written by my husband Jose, and I co-authored it, by adding some spice and my side of things. But it was actually a dream he had, and he woke up and he said, "Don't say anything. I had this dream. I need to write it all down." And it was before we were parents, and it was before we knew that we were going to set on the adoption journey. And so it's very interesting to read through the lens that we have now, because it does have a lot of nods to adoption, but it is basically about, it's not looks that make a family, it's love. And that's what ties us together. And it talks about differences, which I think it's a great book for everybody, because it talks about how everyone looks different and how everyone acts different. But we are all one, we are all, and as believers, we believe that everyone is our brother and sister in Christ. And so it does have this crazy thing where it can be a chameleon and you can read it through a bunch of different lenses and through your lens of life and see a different lesson in it. So it
Mhm.
is one of those books that's not just strictly about adoption, or it's about being kind and loving one another. And so it's a really neat book, and kids love it because it has a bunch of awesome farm animals, which,
Mhm.
fun fact, every farm animal is actually here on the farm that's in the book. So it's a really cool book to read. And I love hearing the reviews from parents. One unexpected thing is that everyone cries. So
Aw.
it's not just me. I didn't expect everyone else. So
Yeah.
it's a great Easter gift.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so where can we send our audience? And we will put the links in our show notes. But for both of these books, do you want them to go to your website, or do you want them to go, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, you can find all of the books anywhere books are sold. You can go to our website for more information, lizmarieblog.com, but you can go to Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold. And you'll find our books, Christian bookstores as well. So we're really excited that you can find them anywhere.
Yes, so neat. And we saw, was it yesterday, that Walmart website called you the Queen of Cozy. And I'm like, oh, we're having the Queen of Cozy on. I love it.
Huge honor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, but I will take it because
Take it.
I do
Take
love
it,
being
girl. You
cozy.
deserve it. You deserve it. All right. Well, Liz, thank you so much for joining us today. Friends, go out and check out these books. They're fabulous. They make a great gift. And it's just been a joy to have you on. So have a wonderful evening with your family, and best wishes to you, Liz.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.